Thank you for sharing your data, Dr. Blair. We can't wait to see you again later this afternoon. With that, we're going to go ahead and get into our panels. And the first person I'd like to introduce you to is Dr. Meredith Davenport, who's the moderator of our very first panel. Dr. Davenport is an accomplished OBGYN physician and an aviation medical examiner, deeply committed to advancing public health and safety. As the wife of a retired Texas Air National Guard F-16 pilot and a mother of 3 teenage daughters, she is a proud native Texan with a strong dedication to service in her communities. After firearms became the leading cause of death among U.S. children and teens in 2020, she learned about the Be Smart initiative in medical literature and was inspired to take action. She is currently a lead volunteer for Moms Demand Action and Be Smart in Wimberley, where she collaborates with volunteers to promote secure firearm storage throughout Hays County, safeguarding children and families. Through this work, Dr. Davenport discovered Texas Doctors for Social Responsibility and is proud to be a member of the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force, contributing to important efforts aimed at reducing gun-related harm. And with that, Dr. Davenport.
So good morning. I'm very excited to be here today and to be part of this movement and this action taking that all of you are contributing to. So the topic of this panel is called Gun Safety Education's Role in Preventing Firearm Violence. So we're going to talk a lot about the first point that Dr. Blair just pointed out as one of the many arms at which we're going to help reduce gun violence. Let's see. The way that the format of this panel is going to work is that there are 3 different panelists, and I'm going to have each of them come up individually and give a small presentation, a brief presentation, and then afterwards there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. And so one of my challenges in a day-long conference like this, where my husband always refers to it as death by PowerPoint, I encourage each of you, with each of the speakers and each of the presentations throughout the day, just please keep in mind what's the one pearl that you want to take back home with you? What's the one action you want to take? What's the one conversation you want to have? And I think if you hold that question throughout this entire day, that we're really going to go back to our communities and start really making a difference, getting more people involved in this movement. So with that, it is my honor to introduce our first panelist, Claudia Yanez. Claudia has been with Austin Moms Demand Action Group Lead for the past year. Prior to that, she was serving as a spokesperson for Moms Demand Action for Spanish media opportunities across the state. Born and raised along the Texas-Mexico border in southwest Texas, she leaned into her volunteer work with Moms Demand Action following the mass shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas in 2022. She is married, a mother of 3 children, and works full-time for a personal finance technology company. And so with that, Claudia.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'm wearing a white jacket, but I am not a doctor. As she said, I do work for tech. Let me advance the slide here. All right. So I'm going to speak about Be Smart. Be Smart is a program that was developed by Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund. And it brings together parents and all adults who are concerned about kids, guns, and safety. And as she said, I am the group lead for Austin Moms Demand Action. I grew up about 70 miles west of Uvalde in Del Rio, Texas. I'm Mexican American, I'm a native Spanish speaker, and I'm going to talk probably really fast because I'm mindful of the time I have and the time for my co-panelists. But I was inspired to volunteer in order to honor with action the 19 children and 2 teachers who were killed in the shooting at Robb Elementary on May 24th, 2022. And I saw some families walked in, and I just want to acknowledge that you're here with us. As a graduate of UT Austin, I believe in the power of knowledge and data to make an impact and change our world. And I want to thank Dr. Estrada and Texas Doctors for Social Responsibility for the invitation to speak. and for this platform to spread a very important message about secure gun storage and the role it plays in gun violence prevention. I want to share that since I leaned into this work in 2022, two of my three children have been at the site of a shooting in a public place in Texas. One at a shopping center in our community, 20 miles north of here, and my daughter in Dallas at the State Fair at the shooting that happened there last year. So it is a very real problem that I am also living. I'm going to play a short video for you all. And they told me it would just play.
When it comes to keeping kids safe, we're all on the same team. As adults, it's our responsibility to keep kids out of harm's way. Part of that is preventing them from getting their hands on guns. Every year, hundreds of kids and young people die because they get a hold of guns. So many of these tragedies, suicides, unintentional shootings, even school shootings could be prevented. What can you do about it? It's simple. If you own a gun, lock it up. And encourage gun owners you know to do the same. Look, owning a gun is your right, but it's our responsibility to protect our kids and our communities. So please do your part. Be safe, be smart. We're in this together. Learn more about secure storage at besmartforkids.org.
We all want kids to grow up happy and healthy. We each have the right and the responsibility to make decisions about how to protect our homes, families, and communities, including whether or not to have a gun in our home. If we can prevent even one child gun death or injury, it's our responsibility to do so. I'm not here to talk about laws or policies, so I'm going to set those aside for a moment. It's a heartbreaking fact, as you all have already heard, that in the US, firearms are the leading cause of death for children. This is a public health crisis. More than 1,800 children under the age of 18 are killed with guns every year, an average of 5 children every day. When children are killed with guns, the majority of those deaths, 54%, are homicides. That's 1,000 children per year. Additionally, nearly 700 children die from firearm suicide each year, and 100 are unintentionally shot and killed. We're here today to talk about how we can prevent tragedies like that. A shocking 4.6 million children in the US live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. While school shootings and mass shootings typically make national headlines, almost all child unintentional shooting deaths occur in the home. And the Secret Service found that 3/4, 75% of school shooters acquired their firearm from the home of a parent or close relative. I know this is an emotional issue, and we may come from different walks of life. Many of you, like me, may be parents. Some of you may be gun owners, and some of you may not be. Some of you may have had a personal experience with guns, and some of you have been impacted by gun violence yourselves. We believe that most gun owners want to be responsible gun owners. So we are here today to talk about what all of us, owners and non-gun owners alike, can do to make sure children and teens do not have unsupervised access to guns. I want to take a few minutes to talk specifically about what the consequences of unsecured guns looks like in our community. All of these stories from Texas, from 2024, show the fallout of when young people get their hands on unsecured guns. No story is quite the same, but they often involve toddlers or teenagers shooting and injuring or killing themselves or others close to them, like friends, siblings, or other family members. All are tragic and all are preventable. But the good news is that we can all take action in our homes and in our communities to keep our kids safe. So even if you don't have a gun in your home, or if you do, and you know that you're already practicing secure gun storage, what can you do right now? Together, we can learn to be smart. Let's start with the S. Secure your guns in homes and vehicles. 13 million households with children contain at least one gun. And the majority of children in gun-owning households actually know where the gun is stored. So what do I mean by securing guns? A gun should always be stored securely, which means they're inaccessible to kids, and make sure children are never in the presence of unsecured guns. Remember, hiding a gun is not securing a gun. We know that you may have specific questions about what secure storage looks like in practice. So here are some examples. Contrary to popular belief, locking up guns does not prevent owners from readily accessing their guns. There's a common myth that storage devices negate the self-defense purpose of owning a gun by putting time-consuming barriers between the gun owner and their means of defense. The reality is that there are many affordable options for secure storage that provide owners with access to guns in a matter of seconds, while still preventing access by children and people at increased risk of harming themselves or others. Further, it is possible that unsecured guns may actually increase the likelihood of crime and violence through an increased risk of gun theft. Did you know that at least 2 guns are stolen every 15 minutes? It's important to also remember to lock up any guns in cars, too. More than half of stolen guns are taken from cars. Just putting a gun under a seat or in the glove compartment wouldn't be considered secure storage. There are car gun lock boxes available for purchase at most retail and sporting goods stores. Locking up guns will help to reduce the risk of firearm suicide, unintentional firearm injury, and also prevent firearm theft. M. Model responsible behavior. Every law-abiding adult has the right to decide whether or not to have a gun in the home, but you can't rely on curious kids not to find a gun. Kids know where their parents store their guns, and more than one third reported handling their parents' guns, many doing so without the knowledge of their parents. Nearly a quarter of parents did not know that their children had handled the gun in their house. It is always an adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid guns. Talk to your kids about gun safety, but remember that it's a precaution, not a guarantee. One study found that young children who go through a week-long gun safety training are just as likely as children with no training to approach or play with a handgun when they find one. Modeling responsible behavior means that smart adults make sure that kids don't have the opportunity to access guns. That said, you can't control the environment that your child is in all the time. So you should teach them not to touch a gun if they come across one, real or pretend, and give them the tools to get out of a dangerous situation and to alert an adult. As an adult, it is your responsibility to do everything you can to prevent them from getting in a dangerous situation to begin with. Ask. As I mentioned, there are approximately 4.6 million US children living in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. That's why you need to ask about firearms in the homes your child visits, the A in SMART. For the parents and caretakers in the room, like me, what are some things you ask about before allowing your child to go to a friend's or another's home? Anybody? Questions we ask other parents or families?
Who's gonna be there?
Who's gonna be there? I have a teenager now, absolutely. Are there pools on the property?
How much screen time?
How much screen time?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Food allergies.
Food allergies, thank you. Again, because I have a teenager. Alcohol access, okay? So asking about guns in the home should be as natural as asking about any other safety issue. If it seems awkward at first, and it might be, try making it part of your general safety conversation. You might try asking via email or text if you're uncomfortable at first. Let's talk about recognizing the role of guns in suicide, the R. Access to a gun can mean the difference between life and death. As our children get older, you may need to reconsider taking another look at your storage methods. If you've been using a simple cable lock, you may want to think about getting a gun safe. We all know how curious children can be, so as they get older and more resourceful, you will need to act accordingly. Also, if you know your loved one is in distress, you might want to consider temporarily removing a gun from your home. Why would you want to do that? It's important to consider that firearm suicide is uniquely lethal. 90% of suicide attempts using a gun end in death, and that half of suicides in the US are gun suicides. 70% of people who survive a suicide attempt will never attempt suicide again. So if you consider temporarily removing a gun from your home, how can you do that? Where can you bring it? Local law enforcement may be willing to temporarily store your guns. Some licensed gun dealers or gun ranges may be willing to temporarily store your guns. Or you could temporarily store your guns in the home of a friend or a family member. But to manage the risk for that friend or family member, you should lock any guns that you transfer and not provide the key or code. Depending on the law in various states, the person agreeing to store your gun may first need to get a background check at a gun dealer or through law enforcement. Most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. In fact, 90% of suicide attempts with a gun result in death, a much higher fatality rate than any other means of self-harm. And this contributes to the fact that 41% of child suicides involve a gun. Oh, I had the wrong slide up that whole time, but we talked about the role of guns in suicide. Forgive me. A national youth survey conducted by the CDC showed that 20% of high school students had previously considered attempting suicide within the last year. One study showed that 41% of adolescents in gun-owning households report having easy access to the guns in their home. As we discussed earlier, research shows that secure firearm storage is associated with decreased risk of child firearm suicide. And here are some important resources to write down or take a picture of in case you or someone you care about needs help. Some signs to look for when you're concerned that a loved one may be suicidal: prolonged sadness and depression, changes in mood and behavior, hopelessness, sleeping too much or too little, withdrawing, isolation, aggression or agitation, increased alcohol or drug use, and talking about killing themselves. If you are a survivor of gun violence, we also have resources available at momentsthatsurvive.org. T is really the power of being smart. How will you commit, which stands for tell, excuse me. How will you commit to be smart today? Sharing the Be Smart message is the way we will save lives, by spreading awareness. And we'd love for you to take a few moments to think about who you're going to share this important message with. And I invite you to text the word SMART to 64433 to be connected with more resources. I'm cutting it close, but these are really important slides for doctors. It is absolutely legal for doctors to have these conversations with their patients. There are no state laws or federal laws that prohibit doctors from having these discussions about gun safety with patients. And it is proven that these conversations can help save lives. And I'm going to quickly flash this slide for the medical professionals in the room that may be looking for additional resources that can help you with these conversations. And I'm at the end. Thank you. Still did 30 seconds. Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much, Claudia. One thing I should have said at the beginning is that all three of these panelists are doing really amazing work in the world, and they have so much information to share with you, and I'm limiting them, like I normally give that presentation in about 30 or 40 minutes, so the fact that she conveyed the message in 15 was really remarkable, so thank you. It is my honor now to introduce our next panelist, Leesa Ross. Ms. Ross is the founder and executive director of Lock Arms for Life, a nonprofit dedicated to promoting gun safety and education for all ages. After losing her son, John, to a handgun accident, She established the organization to provide critical resources, training, and tools for secure gun storage and responsible ownership. Partnered with the City of Austin Office of Violence Prevention for 4 years and receiving grant support, Lock Arms for Life equips everyone with the knowledge to prevent gun tragedies and offers tools like free gun locks and safety boxes to foster safer communities. With that, I'd like to welcome Leesa.
Okay, somebody's gonna have to show me how to do everything, first of all. That is the big thing for me. While she's doing that, I'm just gonna thank everybody for being here. Thank you for having me, inviting me. I'm really excited to be here as, there you go. And what's my arrows?
This is it, going that way.
Okay, and that moves it. Let's just give it a try.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You got it?
Okay, good.
You good with the shaded one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure this was the right slideshow. I'm founder and executive director of Lock Arms for Life, a nonprofit that is based in Austin, Texas. We are focused on, very simply, to ensure that every gun is locked when not in use. While we're primarily funded in Central Texas, our reach is growing around the country. Today, I'm here to share my personal story, the work we're doing to foster safer communities, and the things that you can do to support us and help us. So let's get started. On September 25th, 2009, my son John died in a gun accident after being handed an unlocked gun, unaware it was loaded. His favorite song was Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. The line, "I'd give up forever to touch you," resonates deeply with me. 15 years later, I stand here committed to honoring his memory by educating others on the importance of safe storage, so no other family can feel the pain that I have felt and so many of you have felt in this room. John's death is a reminder why this work matters so much to me, because one simple action, locking up a gun, could save a life. We pursue our mission with 3 strategies: awareness, education, and resources. Through a grant, like that was said, with the Office of Violence Prevention, we've distributed more than 4,000 gun locks across Austin and Travis County. I probably will say the gun locks several times to you. We encourage the community at public events, providing gun locks, educational materials, and work with medical professionals to get these resources to patients. As you can see in this photo up here, the guy with or the woman in the red right here, that is a veterans group in East Texas. And they reached out to us because they are at a critical need for suicide prevention materials. They have the largest number of suicides in the state, is what they told us. Every month, though, we hear from new communities seeking guidance, and we're excited to both help and learn from them. How we are making an impact. Lock Arms, we take action. We don't just kind of do a lot of these talks. What we really do is we get into the community and take a lot of action. While we recognize the role of policy, we know that that isn't the only way to get things done. We've, again, distributed thousands of free gun locks and lots of swag. We do swag because we want people to remember Lock Arms for Life, and we want them to have a message about locking up their guns every time they look at that piece of swag. We want families to have constant reminders about the importance of gun safety. Despite the Texas legislature's failure to declare August as Gun Safety Awareness Month, we secured local proclamations in cities like Austin, Houston, Fort Worth, and many others. We've done it for 2 years now, and each year we're growing that even more. We're hoping that the legislature will pass that this month. We've also presented to healthcare, education, and public health sectors to build networks build networks of advocates. Sorry, kind of got lost in my notes there. Next, this is a map. I just wanted to make sure that of the Health and Human Services agencies that we've partnered with across the state. And you can see that's a recommendation from us, but all those stars are where we have given and sent gun locks to. These are mostly rural counties. Each agency we work with has expressed a critical need for gun locks and educational materials. But funding for them is often a challenge, just like it is for any nonprofit and work that we do. Again, our grant covers mostly Austin and Central Texas, or not Central, but Austin and Travis County. But we have to rely on private donors to be able to service them. Still, we will turn no one away. If somebody reaches out to us and asks us for gun locks, we get them to them, no matter what the need is and how we will find the funding. We just will figure it out. And we provide them with what we call a starter kit, 50 to 100 gun locks, plus resources and educational materials. Our impact has now grown beyond Texas, and we are in states like Indiana, Colorado, and Florida. We work with law enforcement, including piloting a program with the Travis County Jail just recently. The Department of Public Safety and the Travis County DA's office has helped fund the bus ads that you see in this slide right here. As a board member of Safe Kids Austin, we joined forces for the first Austin Public Safety Fair, partnering with the Austin Police Department and piloting a lockbox giveaway. That's a volunteer showing us how to use a lockbox and how it works. We provided safe storage literature for schools, mailed gun locks directly to families. We've also partnered with Cook Children's Hospital, which houses the program Aim for Safety, founded by Dr. Guzman, who joined our board of directors last year. We regularly receive requests through our website for locks and materials. Save the day. This is something we're extremely excited about. There's pictures there. There's everything here. We are launching a graphic novel, Save the Day, Lock It Away, that is to teach 3rd through 5th graders about safe storage. The book uses relatable stories to help kids understand what storage looks like and how to stay safe. It was reviewed by a diverse group of professionals ranging from students to pediatricians, all organized by an ELA, which is an English Language Arts content expert, to ensure the book's message is effective and appropriate for its young readers. Our Get Active curriculum, which is right there, supports the message and explains how it works. We have funding from the Office of Violence Prevention to translate it into Spanish in the year 2025, and we have negotiated a printing contract through Texas Tech Press. We are about to put our first order in, and if anybody in this room is interested in being a part of this and want to contribute and have books available, I see a sign. We will make sure that please come find us somewhere in the room. Let's get moving here. Together, we can make a difference by spreading the message of safe gun storage and helping prevent unnecessary tragedies. By joining forces, whether through outreach, education, or simply sharing resources, we empower communities to protect their families. You can incorporate safe storage in your wellness checks, provide guidance, offer gun locks, literatures at your offices, and you can even have them go straight to our link to get a free gun lock. Again, we take action. Lock Arms for Life is more than just a mission. It is action. We are safety. From distributing thousands of gun locks to providing life-saving education, we are on the front lines every day, ensuring that safe storage becomes common practice in every home. Last, I'm going to finish up real quick. This is it. I think I made it. This picture is really hits my heart a lot because this is what we do. We've been able to connect with communities like Graham Elementary here in Austin, where a tragic accident involved an unlocked gun led students and staff to reach out to us for support. Being there to help those kids who've experienced a loss that was similar to mine is why this work matters really so much to me. When I see those kids' faces and I can touch them and I can hand them gun locks, you know what? When I hand a gun lock, I know that my son is handing that gun lock with me. That's what I know. Thank you for being here today and start taking action towards safety. By the way, we have a goodie bag for you, so we want to make sure that during the break, when you go, come find us. We want to make sure we give it to you. I have Kim waving her hand over here. Inside there is the one pager we had about the map that we showed of the areas that we're servicing for Health and Human Services. There's a firearm safety checklist inside there. There's a bookmark about our book that's coming out so that you can have it. There's a sticker because we want everybody in this room to be a superhero. We want you to save the day, and we want everybody to lock it away. Last, we will have a gun lot for you, and it's for you to use or to give to somebody that you know to make sure that everybody is locking up their firearms when they're not in use. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Leesa, so much for sharing that message and for what you're doing in the world. It's my honor to introduce our final panelist for this session, Torine Creppy. She is the president of Safe Kids Worldwide, which is a global nonprofit dedicated to protecting kids from preventable injuries. Ms. Creppy has dedicated her career to making a meaningful difference in the lives of children and families, especially the most vulnerable. As president of Safe Kids, she works with partners, donors, legislators, and community leaders around the world to develop and implement strategic initiatives, create partnerships, and inspire behavior change to keep kids safe at home, on the road, and at play. Ms. Creppy is a passionate advocate on Capitol Hill and is dedicated to finding new ways to reach high-risk and underserved communities. So with that, I welcome Ms. Creppy to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. I think a lot has been said already. I think the message that I want to leave with all of you is that everything that we're talking about today is preventable. And I think if we join forces together, more together than apart, we're going to make a meaningful difference. I think you've heard from everyone from the legislator, from local partners, to organizations around Texas. My role here is just to say our mission at Safe Kids is how do we protect and prevent another injury to a family. Families do not want their kids to be harmed. They do not want them to be hurt. So we can make that meaningful difference. Safe Kids has not focused its message or meaningful differences around gun safety because for so long it's been intentional that it has happened. Our message is really centered around unintentional. But as you can see in my work for nearly 25 years, motor vehicle crashes have been a leading killer of kids. It is just most recently that it has impacted children and firearms. We work with a national and global network of U.S. coalitions that are either based out of a children's hospital, healthcare system, fire EMS, police, or they're their own 501c3. And if you think about the work that we do, it is really with first, I would say the ones that are seeing the injuries first, most likely in their community and most importantly in where they work. Here in Texas, we have a network, as you can see, surrounding this area. Texas is a huge state along with California, but we are positioned not in every county, not in every city, but where we are, we can make a difference. I think what we've learned most importantly in our work here in Texas is that Texas is by far a state that has open carry. So you are going to see guns everywhere. I'm happy that Stuart Williams is here from Dell Children's Medical Center and one of our leading partners. I've known Stuart for many years when he was in my part of the town in Pennsylvania. At Safe Kids, how we work is we lead with the data. We want to really understand the problem. And we were so honored when the Honorable Ann Brown came to us to really want to make a difference in the 10 states where there needed to be a difference made. Once we understand the problem and we lead with data, we create a solution with your programs. I will say in the space of firearm safety, we do not need to reinvent the wheel. You have Moms Demand Action, you have Everytown for Gun Safety, you have Be Smart. So for us, it's not creating another program, it's joining forces with all of these groups. And most importantly, the parents who've lost a child who want to advocate for making a difference. Our role at Safe Kids is how do we advocate? If we can make a difference by being someone who creates tools for our local coalitions to be able to go to their grassroots right here in this U.S. Capitol and be able to advocate for making a difference. We want to help them. We're creating advocates, and that's what we do. We create messaging for them. We help them understand their data at the local level, and we want them to be able to do exactly what we do at the federal level. So that's advocate at the federal, state, and local level. And where applicable, we can do this. Awareness, we don't have to pay for it like we used to. You used to have to buy ads, pay for billboards. Today, you have digital and social media to really make a difference. You heard Ann Brown say today she's an influencer. If you're going to be an influencer at 80 years old, you know we can make a difference. Our young people are paving the way, and they're leading forces for us to do that. And so our firearm safety partners, as I mentioned, is this list here. As I said at Safe Kids, when we are grounded in research and doing things from an evidence base, our goal is really how do you create programs? There are so many programs out there. I will say one of the things that I've learned is that we should not continue to recreate. We should really join forces to getting a message out there. Parents are on autopilot. They can't go to multiple places to get information. So I think today, let's find ways as we leave this meeting to network. Who's not sitting at our table that should be at our table? Who should we be replicating instead of recreating the messaging? Using what we have in our arsenal will help us. I will tell you that when the Honorable Ann Brown and her team came to Safe Kids to really understand what could they do to make a difference. She's been in this field for many years. We have worked with her on almost every issue around child safety, and her work is continuing to be a legacy, as you heard her speak of today. She provided $100,000 where I can tell you every dollar of that $100,000 went to purchase gun locks. We distribute over 36,000 locks nationally in these 10 states. The work is continuing. We're measuring our impact as we're distributing those, and we're really trying to get testimonials. I think for what we need to do is not what we've heard today is all that we can do. I think there's more that we can do, as I said, as we join forces. One of the things is we're saying lock it. That's the first thing we're saying. Lock up your firearm if you have one. We're saying store it. If you have a box or wherever you feel the need to store it. But what's most important for me is out of sight. Because for us, we can lock it, we can store it. But if we keep it there, how are we going to keep it out of sight? And that goes for medicine as well. This is not just suicide by firearm, but it's suicide by medication also. So I want to keep that as a memory for all of us to lock it, store it, and out of sight. What we created in the campaign that we distributed in those 10 states with the gun locks that were provided to us is that we really worked with this project that had happened in creating a new tip sheet on how to ask friends and family about safe gun storage. You heard earlier in the first presentation, it was really understanding what do you ask a family when you let your child go to their home. We do so much when they're first born. We do so much when we interview daycares, but what happened when they become that middle student and that high school student? How do you ask friends and family about safe gun storage? And I think it's something that we shouldn't be afraid to ask if we're letting our child go to someone else's home. We should ask those questions, especially in states where there's open carry. They're likely to have a gun in their home. And so what's important to us is that for every gun lock that we distributed, we provided this tip sheet as well as the resources as I shared of the other partners. We encouraged those to really partner in their community, find out who those advocates are and join forces with them. The messaging, as we mentioned, is that we can get more messaging out. We don't have to wait to go in a community to distribute materials. We can get messaging out through our digital and social channels. Many of us are on Facebook. Many of us are on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on all of these places. We shouldn't wait until an injury or fatality happen in our community to share the messaging. Become more repetitive in sharing the messaging. The more people see it, the more it can generate interest and understanding. What's important is to lock it, store it, and out of sight. And with that, I think we'll go to questions.
So I'd like to invite each of the panelists up to the stage.
Doesn't make any difference to me. It's not real hot for you. Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
And then if there are any audience questions, if you want to raise your hand. And
Yes, the questions that I had, I was talking with a neighbor who had a pistol stolen out of his truck. And that in San Antonio, they know to target trucks to get guns. And his pistol was not locked up. And I suggested, he said he carries it all the time. And I suggested a gun storage box in his truck. He told me that he had one in the past that somebody in a few seconds opened with a crowbar. I looked online and there are some that claim to be more secure. They have the little ledge around so it's hard to pry them open. If anybody can comment on that, I would appreciate it.
Is it okay if I do it, or do y'all want to do it? Yes. Can y'all hear this, or is it not working? It's not. There we go. Let's try this one. How's that? Yeah, theft is on the rise. There's no question, and especially in vehicles. I mean, it is a big concern right now, especially with a lot of law enforcement agencies. And actually, I was just at a crime prevention association meeting, and this was one of the topics that was brought up and that we talked a lot about. There are devices that go inside of cars. They have ones that are made specifically that you can get for the brand that you have, that is made specifically for that console that goes inside there. Those range, though, are quite expensive. I'm going to say it's anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 for one of those. When we gave away the lock boxes that we did at the Austin Public Safety Fair that we did for the first time, it had a cable that goes into it, and the cable could go through down to the bottom of the box, and you could actually lock it. So you would have the box in there, plus the cable would be connecting around the other side. I'm going to tell you a quick story. This is a story that I heard too. This is somebody that I know who got his firearms stolen as well. He had a tracker device on the bag that he had when the firearms got stolen. And he thought for sure, because of the fact that he had that tracker on that bag, that he would be able to get his firearms back. Well, he called the police. The police said yes, but they said, we can, and he knew exactly where his firearms were. He knew exactly where the house was. He knew where the guns were. And the most the police could do was go knock on the door and say to the people, do you have these firearms? We have traced this tracker here. They could not do anything other than that because a tracker is not considered a reliable source. And so they are not allowed to do anything further with it. So here were a gun that was stolen. We knew the house that it was in, and yet law enforcement's hands are tied to even do anything about that. That is a world that we are living in.
With that said, did they tell you what would be considered a reliable source as far as that?
They would have to have video camera footage of him actually committing the crime in front of his home, because this happened by in front of his home. So he needed a video camera to show that the gun, have video footage of the guy actually doing the crime.
And there are locking devices that have the tracker built into the box, which is a more reliable source than an air tag.
Correct. Sorry.
Is it working? There we go. Well, I don't have on my white coat and I don't have on my military uniform either. And that's what I want to speak to is a lot of wounded soldiers walking around in the suicide rate that you hear on probably every 15 minutes on TV. The Veterans Administration program is supposed to have in every veterans facility now, even some psych hospital like in Kerrville or someplace like that, they're free gun locks.
I just want everybody to remember that. You can go and get gun locks and other weapons.
We work with the VA as well. I didn't really say that in, I was limited time, but that picture that I showed you of the veterans group that was in East Texas that requested gun locks, we have a contact out there with the VA that's an outreach woman, and with her. So what we did on that to provide them the gun locks, for every gun lock we gave, the VA gave one as well. So we matched the gun locks. So they actually ended up getting over 100 gun locks at the facility because we supplied, 50 of them, and the VA supplied the other 50. And even when we did our proclamations in Fort Worth, that same VA, that outreach woman that we have a very good connection with, she showed up to make sure that we had the support for her at the proclamation reading.
Well, I got a handful from the VA.
Oh, yeah.
I keep them with me
They're
in case I run into a family member.
If you can use the microphone when you talk, because there's an online presence and they can't hear. Okay, sorry. And then also up here. Yeah.
Well, I was just saying that I got a bunch of gun locks free from the VA, but I keep them with me because I do a lot of work with veterans trying to get their appointments set up and things like that and get transportation for them. So I'm handing them out myself, and the VA will let you do that. So.
Yes, the VA has, like I said, they have also, we partnered with the VA more than once. And yes, they have also provided some gun locks for us too as well.
Thank you. I appreciate all the presentations and the graphics that you use to provide information. It's well done by each of the speakers. I wanted to speak to the point that about coming together, because what this group is all about is diversity on the same point, and most of all coming together. And the question is how that can be accomplished in terms of a media center coordination, bringing it all together, because that united we stand. And I think if the election turns in a way that we have a former football coach and our new member, that's going to be his first assignment, gun safety. And coming together is what will make the difference.
Thank you. Over here.
I don't have a question. I have a friendly PSA to help us all hear each other throughout the day. There's two types of microphones. There's something called a cardioid mic, which is what this is. You have to talk directly into it. And then there's omnidirectional mics, which hear everything around it. If you do this, you can't hear it. If you do this, you can hear it. So that's just to help us all hear each other.
And then I have one question for Claudia. How are local governments and school boards in Texas taking action to promote Be Smart and secure storage?
You just gave me instructions. So yes, so in June of last year, Governor Abbott signed into law Texas House Bill 3, which added, among other things, effective September 1st, 2023, Section 37.222, resources on firearm storage to the Texas Education Code. And it basically requires public school districts and open enrollment charter schools to distribute to all parents and guardians information on safe firearm storage that's provided by the School Safety Center and the Texas DPS. So the thing to know about House Bill 3 and that requirement is that districts are required to use that information from DPS, which is called Keep 'em Safe. But it doesn't have to be the exclusive source of information. They can leverage other secure storage information like Be Smart, like the Lock Arms for Life information as supplements to the requirement under HB 3. And we have Be Smart volunteers, just like me, just like the presentation I delivered, that can show up and deliver this presentation to community groups and also table and distribute information and free gun locks as well. And I'm aware that some cities and counties have had local proclamations on gun safety, including my community, to help spread awareness in the communities. And as far as school boards, we've shown up to give public comment and really keep our school boards accountable to compliance. And really, we seek above and beyond compliance. We want them, to use every avenue at their disposal, every channel at their disposal, to distribute this information. It's, in our view, it's not good enough to just send an email or to include a little blurb in a digital newsletter. We have volunteers who have advocated and partnered with school districts to record a podcast and videos and other engaging ways to distribute this life-saving information.
Thank
Can I
you.
add to that?
Yeah.
So with our grant through the Office of Violence Prevention, we've been supplying the Austin Independent School District with safe storage literature for about over 3 years now. And we probably provided them with over 50,000 pieces of safe storage literature that they've been able to put into backpacks. These are usually the underprivileged kids who can't afford to have backpacks and school supplies. And each year that was ranging between 13,000 and 15,000 students that were in those districts that didn't have backpacks or school supplies. And so we sponsor the school's events, and so that we could actually put that material inside there. Then we would attend their in-person back-to-school batches and hand out gun locks. And at each of those events, we would do anywhere from 100 to 150 gun locks that we would hand out into the community during that event. We just expanded that. We're now with Lake Travis has put our information as a resource at their school. And then we've also just got into Manor, and I think we're about ready to get into Pflugerville. So we've been working very hard to make sure that we let the schools know that we're here. They can list us as a resource. In fact, even on the AISD, they did a newsletter that they sent to parents and leaders. And in that newsletter, we ended up getting a request from parents to our website, and I think we mailed out. Again, we mail gun locks. We don't just send them. If somebody sends us a request, we mail it to their home. And I think we got over 120 requests for gun locks for the mailing just by being in their newsletter.
Thank you. And I just want to, as a moderator, I'm going to insert a comment. One lost opportunity in a lot of cases, for those of you who are parents or connected with school boards, when there are these lockdown drills and you get email notifications or there's a threat of some sort, one thing that I would really like to see is a comment in there about, hey, by the way, let's do secure storage. So not only notifying people, but putting an extra plug in just to keep hammering that message so people might actually take action. And okay, last question. This has to be brief because I'm running over. So one of my questions for each of our panelists is, in 1 or 2 sentences, what is the pearl that you hope each of the audience members will take home from your work or your presentation?
I'll start. I want to just continue to say you have to join forces. I mean, we show up at a lot of these meetings. We leave here saying what we're going to do. It's now take action and do something. And so, as I've said, we're a national organization. We're also a global organization. And our goal through our network of coalitions around the country is to become members and to join forces in working with all of you. I think the legislator here in the room, to give up her entire day, speaks volumes. And as much as we want to distribute information to children and to parents, we have to really do a better job of advocating for that change together.
If you take anything away from Be Smart, hopefully it's the T. Tell somebody. It's such an important message and something easy that we can all do to spread the message and create awareness on something that's totally preventable. And going back to the doctor's comment about coming together, I have no ego about safe storage. In fact, I live in Pflugerville, and I let my local safety people know, that there is Be Smart, that there is Lock Arms for Life, and I think it's incredible how far we can go if we don't care who gets the credit. We just want to save lives.
Again, what I want to leave with, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. And I just want everybody, again, you all have the power to be a superhero in this room. You all have the power to go ahead and share this message. And again, we want all of you to know, save the day, lock it away.
And just a final comment, you heard it actually in different ways from all three of the panelists. If this is your first venture into gun violence prevention, all of these organizations, there's Scathe Kids in Austin, there's Lock Arms for Life, and then there's Be Smart. But we welcome volunteers. There's a lot of different ways to get involved in this movement. You can work from home spreading this message. You can go out on your own and just start having conversations with the person sitting next to you at the football game or whatever. But just start having the conversations and jump in. This is the time to take action, and we welcome you. We encourage people to join in, and it feels really good to have these conversations and know that you're doing something even when these events keep happening over and over. It is my saving grace in those moments to know that, okay, I'm already doing this work. How can I get more to join us? So anyway, thank you to our panelists. You did a fabulous job. And